everyone, welcome back to Wildwood Cottage Diary. My name's Hazel and I'm coming to you from mid Wales. It's a blustery old day out there today. It's blowing a gale, it's freezing cold, so I've got a scarf and a hat on again in the house because I'm really cold. The wind's whistling down the hill and it's picking up the cold air as it comes, and it just feels really ooh today. So I wish my log stove was fitted in the kitchen, but it's not in yet. So I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. I hope you're having a good week, and I hope that you're managing to keep warm wherever you are. Today I'm making apple sauce, and I thought that I would show you what I'm doing and hopefully take you along with me in the recipe and show you what jars I'm using and things like that, so you can make it as well. And you can just see how easy it is to make without needing specialist jars, and you can do it for free basically. Even if you have your own apples, it'll cost you nothing. But I have a different selection of jars, and I just thought I'd show you what the jars are, and then we'll have a look at the apples and then we'll make the applesauce together. So the first thing I've got to show you is just a selection of ordinary shop bought jars. I've got peanut butter jars with the lid. I find these great for jam making. They do give me a good seal and they do keep for a good 12 months in there. And I've used them for jam before, so I'm sure if you can use them for jam, I'm sure you can use them for applesauce. The other size jar I have in storage at the moment is these little jars. This one is an old ginger jar. So you could use the garlic jars from the garlic soup recipe, from the pumpkin soup recipe last week. So I'm sure you could use that. There's also mustard jars and honey jars. So I just keep a selection of jars in the house, well, in storage in the garage. And it depends then, because these are great for jam, because you don't really want to put a lot in a jar. And then they make great gifts for people as well, and it's cost you nothing. So they're the shop bought ones. I also have a selection of larger shop bought ones as well. These are the things that you get your curry sauce in. I find these a great size for applesauce recipes, and a great size for small crumbles for 2 or 3 people. So you could also use this size jar and then add plums or rhubarb to it and make a different type of recipe. So that's that one. I've got a few of those. I've got 3 of those at the moment because I've already made some applesauce already, so they've gone to that. I've also got these old vintage Ministry of Food jars, and they've still got the MF on the bottom, and I can't get hold of the lids for these jars, but I've managed to find that the new modern day lids fit with the old clips that were issued with the jars. So I've got a few of these. I've got another 13 in the garage, I think, and these need a bit of a wash before they go in the oven. But yeah, I've got 2 of those to use. So they're 250ml jars, 250 millilitres. These ones are about 750 millilitres, the shop ones. And then I've got just some ordinary 500ml Kilner jars. These ones I got in Home Bargain for 99p. They're great jars. I've also got these earring jars, mason jars, and these were £1.29 in Home Bargain, and these are great jars. They come with the lids and everything, and these are 1 litre jars, 1 litre for £1.29. So yeah, I've got those, and I've also got these lovely vintage war jars as well. I think these are from the 1920s, and they are original Kilner jars. Don't know whether you can see that on the label. But yeah, they've still got the screw tops on, but I have lost the glass off the top. But again, I can use my ordinary standard mason jar lids, pop them on the top, screw the lid back on, and get a good seal from that, and then I can reuse the lid for other jars. So I've got about 15 of these jars in the garage. These ones are £2, I think. Yeah, this one's a £2 jar, and I've just found this one, which is even better. This one's a £3 jar, so there's the difference in the size. So these ones are just the older version of these modern day ones. So that's a £2 and that's a £1. So yeah, so as you can see, I've got a good selection of jars. Now what I do with my jars is I decide what I'm going to do, and then I put the oven on, and then I give them a wash under the tap. They have all been through the dishwasher, but just because they've been in storage for a week or so, I want to put them in the oven as well and sterilise them. I'll give them a bit of a clean, and then they'll go in the oven. So I'll just come back in a minute when I've done that. Right, what I've also got in my tub here, this is just an old Tupperware tub with a crack in the bottom, and it's great for storing my Kilner jar lids. These are new lids. I bought 100, this whole packet here of 100, and I think they were £12 for a pack. Now some places on eBay were selling like 5 lids for £10, so that was a really, really good deal. So these are my lids. And we'll put a pan of water on, boiling water on in a minute when I've taken my apples out of it, and we'll sterilise the lids and the rings at the same time as heating the jars and cooking the applesauce. And then hopefully by the time the applesauce is ready, the jars will be done and the lids will be sterilised. So as I say, I'll just sort out my jars, and then when we come back, we'll come back to the apples. Right, so we're back now, and we're back at the apples. So this is the apples that I've got. I've got this tub here, and I've got this pan here. So, right, what we're going to do now is we're going to use one of these things. And it cores, peels and slices all at the same time. Now I found this one on eBay for about £5 or £6, and it is absolutely brilliant. It saves so much time. I've just done 2 apples in less than a minute. So yeah, it's a brilliant little gadget. So I'd highly recommend one of those. And you need a lemon juicer to juice the lemons, and a knife, and that's it. So I'll just take you, oh hang on, no, you need some sugar. I'm using coconut sugar because I like this coconut sugar. This is from Lidl and it's about £1.99 a bag, and just some ordinary mixed spice, which is again from Lidl for about 49p. That's my pan so far. I've put 2 apples in there and I've put the juice of 1 lemon. Now I'm going to turn the hob on, and I'm going to put it on full to heat up the water. Right, this is the apple peeler corer, and you pull that out. You put your apple on there, and I'll show you how you do that. You take your apple, just your ordinary apple, in the middle, where the core is, you pop it in. Okay, right, what we're going to do now is fix it to the worktop, but I'll just show you without it fixed to the worktop how it works. Just like that. And what it does is it goes in through that hole on the other end, and this little bit puts a slice in, peels all the apple, and then you take your apple off like that. There's your apple, and it leaves the core in place. So your apple's all nicely cut. So what I do is I just take a knife, do that, and then pop them in the pan, and then they're going to be big enough then for apple crumble. So what also I'm going to do is I've got a lemon. Now I've already got 1 lemon in there, but I like to put 2 in just to make sure that they don't go brown, because you don't want brown apples. But the jug at the bottom just catches all the juice and it saves an awful lot of mess. So Make sure you don't get any pips in, because you don't want someone chewing into a pip. Break your teeth. Right, take your lemon juice. There's your pan. Just pour it in the pan. Give it a bit of a mix, just to make sure you've got it all mixed up. And then heat that pan up on the hob while you do your apples. So I'm just going to carry on with my apples. I'll show you how you fix it to the worktop. You take the core off. I'll give the peel to the chickens and they'll enjoy that as a treat. You fix it on to the worktop. There's a little gadget. Right, there's a little lever here. Turn that. That fixes it. Right, there's a little button here. Pull it back. Pop your apple on. And it's that quick. It's brilliant. And if they're organic apples, you could make apple cider vinegar with the apple cores, the apple peel, but I'm just going to give it to the chickens and give them a treat. Now the weather's getting cold, the chickens are starting to slow down, and it's nice to give them a treat and perk them up, because it means they keep laying. Because at the moment, this time of year, they're going to be molting, and because they're stuck in with this new order from the government, it'll be a nice treat for them, break up their day. So I'll put it in the food mixer and give it to the chickens. So I'm going to switch the camera off now, and when we come back, all the apples will be done. So I'll see you in a minute. Right, okay, I'm back now, and I've just done my last apple, and I've got all the other apples in the pan. So we'll have a look in the pan, and then we'll add the sugar, and yeah, we'll add the spices, and then once it's cooked we'll come back again and I'll show you what to do next. So I'll just show you what I'm going to do now. Right, okay, so I've done all my apples. These are all my cores. Got quite a few. This is my last apple, gone in the pan. The apples have been cooking now for about, well, however long I've been gone, about 15 minutes I think it took me to do those. So there's all the cores, probably about 10-15 minutes. Quite a few there. I worked out that in each bag there was, let's see, 1.2 kilos in a bag, and I had 4 bags. So I had just under 5 kilos of apples. And there's this mountain of apple peel to go to the chickens. I'm going to chop it up and put it in the freezer, and then they can have that when they have porridge on a cold day. So that'll perk them up. Right, the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to add our sugar and our spice. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a bit of a stir. You see some of it's softening up nicely now. That Cora does a brilliant job chopping them all up, nice uniform thickness. So it tends to cut them into 4, each apple into 4. It tends to all cook at just the right thickness. So it all cooks at a good time, even time, because they're all the same thickness. So that's that. Now, as I say, I'm using coconut sugar. You don't have to use coconut sugar. You can use brown sugar if you want to, but I'm just choosing to use coconut sugar because I don't like ordinary sugar. And I think this gives it a nice, rich, treacly texture as well. So what I'm going to do is I've got 1, 2 tablespoons. That's it. That's all the sugar I put in. I don't put in any more because depending on what I'm going to put it with, plums can be quite sweet, and rhubarb can be quite bitter, so depends on what I'm going to put it with, depends on how much I'm going to use. I'm getting my teaspoon, and I'm going to put 1 level teaspoon of mixed spice, and that's it. Because as I say, as it's getting cooked into a crumble or whatever it's going into, or jam or whatever, you don't want to have too much seasoning and too much sugar, because then it can be used for anything. But this is just to give it a bit of a sweetness for preserving, and it gives it a nice treacly texture, because if you do use it for apple crumble, then it means you don't have to add any more sugar. So yeah, I'm going to leave that to cook now for another 10 minutes, and when we come back we'll start putting it in the jars and I'll show you what to do next. So see you in a minute. Right, okay, so we're back now to doing our jars. I've had my lids heating up in a pan of water to sterilise them. The apples are now ready in their pan here, and I have my jars. Right, my apples are ready. So what we're going to do now is, the jars are warm, and while the jars are warm you want to put your apples in the warm jars, because you don't want to crack your jars. So that's what we're going to do now. Right, I've got my ladle ready to scoop the apples into the jars, and I've got one of these, and it's a jam funnel. Now I find this really much easier to be able to get the apples into the jars with one of these. So you pop that on the top of your jar, you give your applesauce a bit of a mix. So you grab your apples, don't want too much, and then pop it in the funnel. Give the funnel a shake to get your apples in. Try and get some of that juice in. More apple. And just keep going until you've filled your jar up. Sorry, that noise you can hear is my oven keeping the jars warm. I've got my smaller jars in there, I'm just doing my bigger ones. Now when you get near the top, like that, use the end of a spatula and poke it in the jar, and that just gets any air bubbles out. So just do that in the jar, just to get any air bubbles out, like that. Put your funnel back on and carry on, like that. Now you want to go to about 1 inch before the top of the jar. So I would say that that's enough. So just keep poking the end of your spoon in, just to make sure you got all those bubbles out. And then wipe the jar, make sure the top's dry. Your lid. Pop that on. And get your ring. Pop that on as well. You don't want it on too tight, because you want it to be able to let the air out when it's in the pan. So there's one done. So I'll do a smaller one now. I'll do one of these jars now. So again, you want your apple. Smells delicious. It smells of apple crumble. May have got a bit too much in there. Let's just scoop a bit out. A bit too much liquid in there. Want more apple. Put a little bit more apple on the top there. Give it a good wipe. You don't want anything going mouldy. Possibly a bit too full, that one. Can't get it right, this one, can I? We'll wipe the top of the jar. That. That. And then hopefully that should clip on. Go. So this is one of my vintage jars. There's no cracks in it, and yeah, the lid has gone on nice and tight with that clip. So that's another one. Let's do another size, one more size, and then I'll switch the camera off and then I can show you the next stage. So this is one of the curry sauce jars that I use, and this is a 750 gram. So this is a good size if you want to add plums or something to it. Those smaller jars are good if you just want to make enough for 1 or 2 people. But this size is perfect for adding plums and things. Let's poke the thing down. I may have a bit too much in here. Oh, it's flattening down alright. Again, we'll wipe the top. Get our lid. Now this is just an ordinary standard lid. So that'll just go on the top. And there's another one, so that's our curry sauce one. So far we've got 3 sizes. We've got 250ml, 750ml, and a 1 litre. So I'm just going to carry on filling my jars, and then when we come back I'll show you how many jars I got out of my pan of apples, and I'll show you what to do next. See you in a minute. Right, okay, so we're back now, and I'm just preparing my pan for the jars to go in. This pan here again. This is the one that the apple sauce came out of, and I use this all the time for making jams and things, for sealing the jars. What I do is I've got this plate. I don't know what it is. I think it's a pie plate, something that was in the house when we moved in. So I put that in the bottom, and that just stops the jars from touching the bottom of the pan. So what I do next is I've got my jars. I've got 2 of those curry jars, and they can go in. I've got a 2.5 pound jar, that can go in. I've got a 2 pound jar. These are the vintage Kilner jars that I showed you, so that can go in. I don't want to pack them too tight. And then I've got one of the modern day 1 litre ones. So I think that's all that's going to go in my pan at the moment. I'm not going to get any more in there. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got some boiling water from the kettle, and I'll pour that down the middle. Now this is why you want hot jars, hot apples, and then water. So I'm just going to top that up now with cold water. As you can hear them starting to bubble. Now you want to make sure you haven't got your lids on too tight at this point, because you want the air to be able to get out. You don't want any jars. Oh, sorry, that was the dishwasher. You don't want any jars exploding. I mean, that one's gone. That one had sealed already. You don't want them open so they let water in, but you want to make sure that they're going to seal without exploding. And that one had sealed as well, which is good. Hopefully we got all the air out when we poked at them. Right, okay. So they're just hand tight. And we'll let the water do its thing now. Right, so they're in their pan, all ready to go. Two of them aren't under the water, but there's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. But we'll come back in 25 minutes and then we'll lift them out and we'll leave them to seal and pop. The lids will pop when they're sealed. So I've got 5 jars and this one. So yeah, that one should be alright anyway, so we'll just take our chance with that one. So that's that. So we'll come back a bit later on once the jars are finished and I will show you what they're like when they're finished. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to freeze my tomatoes. These are the tomatoes I've picked so far to keep out of my greenhouse. And I've got one of these nifty little gadgets that's going to seal this bag for me. And I could suck the air out if I want to, but I'm not going to because I don't want it to be like a brick in the freezer. I want it to be able to move around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that on here, like that. That goes in that little gap there. Then this thing goes on the top, like that. Push the tomatoes out the way. And then the lid comes down, like that. And then you press the seal button. And that should be done. Just give it a couple of seconds and then we'll see if it's done. Is it done? Yeah, there we go. We've got a nice seal on that now. That will keep in the freezer now as long as I want them to, and they can still move about as well in the bag. So that's how I'm freezing my tomatoes. Right, okay, so the jars are finished now. They've been on for about half an hour, so I'm going to lift them out. I've got one of these little gadgets that helps to lift the jars out. One of these things, it's like a pincer type thing, black handle at the top and then red at the bottom, slightly curved to go around the shape of the jar. So I'm just going to lift them out. Saves you picking hot jars up. Pour the rest of the water off the top. Done well then. This one. Yeah, they're done. Done well as well. These ones I'm not sure about, but I'll use them first. So you can tighten your lids now. They need it. They shouldn't need it, but if they do, then just give them a bit of a tighten. That's the last one. So I'm not going to waste my water. I'm going to do the dishes with it, pour it in the sink. Right, so I hope you've enjoyed cooking along with me today and seeing how I make my apple pie crumble mix and with my apples. As I say, I used just under 6 kilograms of apples to do my apples crumble, and I got £2, £2.5, a pound, and just under. So I got about £5 of applesauce, so that wasn't too bad. But yeah, this is the £2 jar, the vintage ones. That one's getting ready to pop. The other £2 one has already done that. I got 2 of these curry sauce jars, and I got a 1 litre Kilner jar from Home Bargain. So yeah, so we're going to enjoy apple crumble through the winter, and I've already got some in my pantry, and I've done apples and plums, and the next time I make it I'm going to put plums in it because I've got another bag of apples and 2 punnets of plums to use, so I'm going to do some more in the next couple of days. But I hope you've enjoyed my recipe today, and if you do want to make it yourself, the recipe will be on my blog, which is good. The link is in the description bar below. And if you want to find me on any social media like Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, the links for that are also below this video. Thanks very much for watching today, and if you do want to keep up to date, please do like and subscribe, as that will help me to promote my videos on YouTube on my channel. And please do hit the notification bell if you want to keep up to date as and when new videos go up on my YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed my video, and I will see you next time. So bye for now. Bye bye.